Hello, everyone, and welcome to HCS Matters. My name is John Wright, and over the next half hour, we'll be talking with three Hardin County Schools teachers about how they are doing pandemic school, how they're doing school in the middle of a pandemic. So you're going to learn a lot today, and you're going to see that our teachers are probably working harder now than they ever have, even though up until we're taping this on a Thursday before in-person instruction resumes again on January the 11th. So you'll see that even though hopefully we're back to in-person instruction, you'll see that they've been working probably just as hard or harder without students in the classroom as they were or are with students in the classroom. DeMarcus Compton is my first guest. DeMarcus is a special needs instructor at Lincoln Trail Elementary School. And first of all, DeMarcus, I like your new digs.
Oh, thank you. Love it. It's a nice place.
So, Mr. Compton, teaching during the pandemic, I imagine when you got your certificate and your bachelor's degree, I'm going to go be a teacher. This was not what you envisioned, was it?
No, I was not prepared for this.
Right.
Oh, goodness. It wasn't, but I will say, I've done what I can to just, soak up new things that's just kind of helped me, become a better teacher. There's things I know that we'll talk about later, but I will say in the beginning of the pandemic, whenever we first found out that we're going to teach this way virtually, I kind of panicked a little bit. I'm not going to lie, just a little stressed. And, of course, with me being a special education teacher, I mostly just thought about my kids, really, more so thinking about them, versus teaching, versus me thinking, how am I going to teach? It was more so me thinking about my kids who already have challenges and, I know that a lot of my kids, they do have good support at home, but are some of my students who do not have support at home. And so when I first found out that we were going to be learning virtually, that's initially I thought, oh my goodness, my kids, I thought about my kids. And so, but yeah, so, but we're pushing right along and moving right along. So
Mr. Compton, how, when we first went to NTI back in March of 2020, you had to get ready over a weekend. Basically, you had a weekend to get ready and make that transition. Then we started the year with non-traditional, with in-person instruction, even though it was a small amount of students. And then we went back to NTI. Being a special needs teacher, how did that? I imagine that affects the psyche of all children, but especially those with special needs. How did that affect your students?
I will say I have some kids every single day on our Google Meets. They would always say, Mr. Compton, when are we coming back? or they would email me and say, I love you, Mr. Compton. Can you please come and visit me at my house? Because they just really wanted to be here. Right. And so I really tried to, meet their needs by, if they really just needed me to just have an extra Google Meet with them, just one-on-one, not to talk about, things that we were learning, just to talk about life and spend time together. That's what I did, and I know, and I'm hoping that we're able to, get back into the swing of things next week. But I know that a lot of my kids, they really, 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 really want to be here. And I want them to be here too. But, during this time, I'm doing what I can in order to, meet their needs while they're at home.
Talk about some of the successes that you've seen from your students over this crazy time.
Well, one thing that I tell everyone is that during this time, I feel like this NTI process has taught a lot of my kids independence, and it's helped them, kind of grow a lot, because it's kind of cool whenever I see one of my students, who already have challenges, they will reach out to me and send me an email and say, Mr. Compton, I'm working on this math assignment that I don't understand how to do it. Can you meet with me at 12:30? Or if I give them a time and say, yes, I would love to help you, can you please meet me on a Google Meet at 1:30? They're there and ready to go. And if for whatever reason, if one of my meets is running over with another kid and I'm running just a little bit late, typically they will write me and they'll say, "Mr. Compton, it's 1:30. We're supposed to meet together." And so it's kind of cool. Yeah, I like it when they get on me that way, because they're holding me accountable. But that is something that it's been great to see, the fact that they are reaching out for this help, and the fact that they are showing up for the Google Meets and those one-on-one Google Meets. So that has been a huge success story during this time for me.
Sounds like a lot of maturation going on with your students as we come through this process.
Definitely. It's been great to see. And I tell my wife, all the time, yes, this is a hard time, but I do love seeing the success stories that we are having during this time. So just looking at the positives.
To say that you're excited to see students come back, even in the AB model, the AB hybrid model coming back to school, I'd say is probably an understatement for you.
Well, especially being here at the new school, like sitting here at my desk, there are times I just look over at my kidney table and I just envision having my kids just around the table, just being able to not only teach them, but, I like to joke with my students and just, talk about their lives and everything. We just have a great time, and I'm just so ready for them to be here.
You're a teacher. You're a son of a teacher. From what I can remember, I mean, that teaching is kind of in your blood. So I would say for you, it's kind of like being a thoroughbred, kind of held back and not a left. You're in the starting gate, but you can't. The bell hasn't rang.
Yeah.
You can't go anywhere. So
cut me loose.
That's right. So,
I'm ready.
That's right. So just talk about that. How you personally have overcome the obstacles of, man, I wish I could teach, or wish I could have some sort of normal interaction with students.
I'm a very positive person anyway, so I just try to think about the positives that we've had during this time, and that's kind of helped me because, honestly, I have had some days to where, it's just been really tough emotionally on me, because I really do, miss my students being here, but just really, talking to my colleagues and being positive, and then also doing those extra one-on-one Google Meets with my students has really helped me, because I really do miss the time that I share with them. And so just doing that one-on-one time with them has really helped me, just being able to figure out, find out how they were doing, at home, and talking to their parents. That's really helped me, emotionally get through this as well. And, lucky for me, I have a wonderful family who's very supportive of me during this time. And they know that, it's tough for me to be, teaching virtually and not being in person with my kids. And just having that support group has really helped me as well.
Going forward, how will you use what you've picked up or what you've learned, technology-wise, instructional-wise during this pandemic? How will it help you become a better teacher in the future?
Yeah, I have learned a lot with technology, especially with Google Classroom. Honestly, before NTI, I use technology, but not to the extent that we have been using it throughout, NTI. And so that's something that I want to do, continue to use Google Classroom, even whenever the kids are, here. And I've been able to find a lot of just engaging assignments that students do. They love working on the computer and they love manipulating. And so that's something that I will continue to do in the classroom. And I don't think I would have learned as much if we didn't go through this NTI process. So I'm going to be positive about that. So it's really made me have to use technology more. And so that's something that I plan on doing whenever the kids come back to the classroom.
Absolutely. I know we joked about it earlier, but you have moved into a new school during NTI, unpack the classroom, getting ready for students coming back in a week after you walked into that building for the first time. How talk about the transition that not only you've made, but your colleagues at Lincoln Trail Elementary have made through this process.
We have just pulled together as a team. We're just one big happy family here at Lincoln Trail. And so it's been awesome to see just teachers pulling together, not only during our move, but just throughout this whole NTI process, and I know there's things, we're in a new building, so, we're establishing new procedures and, having to come together and saying how we're going to teach those new procedures, new technology in the rooms. That's something that together we're coming together to try to prepare for, which is going to be awesome for our students. So really, we've just been, meeting in groups and, just talking about our transition and just really helping each other move and get our rooms together. And so, yeah, we've just really supported each other and just worked hard together.
Awesome. Well, Mr. Compton, you're one of the best, and we appreciate you. We appreciate everything that you and your colleagues, not only at Lincoln Trail, have done, but across the district. And we're just so grateful for you and your passion for students. And we know that not only you are going to do great things, but your kids are going to do great things because of your leadership. So we appreciate you.
I appreciate it. I love it.
All right. Next, we're going to be talking with a couple more teachers from across the district. So hold on just for that. Hey, we're back now with Chad Witzel, and Chad is in the medical science pathway at the Hardin County Schools Early College and Career Center. And Chad, talk about the obstacles that you've had to face going through COVID-19 and some things that maybe that when you got into the teaching profession that you certainly didn't think that you would be doing in 2020 and 2021.
Absolutely. So it's kind of ironic because just before a lot of this started, we had a trimester change. And one of the first things we kind of discussed with our introductory chapters is emergency preparedness. And we kind of always glazed over a little bit of the pandemics. It was more so a key term, just to kind of give them an idea of what that was, let alone did I think we were actually going to experience it. So it's been a challenge, but teaching a class that's such a hands-on class, my predominant class is emergency procedures, that it's been challenging trying to really try to find different ways to incorporate things students have at home to complete the task. So for example, we do a section on first aid where we learn splinting techniques, things like that. Well, instead of doing those, practicing those and showing them how to do it here in class, I elected to do it at home with my wife using things we had laying around the house, because most likely they're not going to have splints, they're not going to have slings, ace wraps, things like that. So we got creative, used DVD cases, magazines, things like that to kind of get them thinking outside the box of what, whenever a disaster hits, most likely you're not going to have everything at your disposal. So it's been challenging, but it's been, I think it's actually going to aid some of our students at the next level getting used to that online format for the college ranks.
Right. And Chad, your program is unique. I mean, I think, I don't know if there's any other program in Kentucky like it. If there is, there's not many. So you probably don't have a lot of support groups or a lot of other teachers to lean on. So how have you come up with those ideas to kind of think of outside of the box and grow beyond anything that you would have imagined?
Truthfully, a lot of it comes back to my background in sports medicine. There's been numerous times I've been at covering different schools, not only here in Kentucky, but down in Georgia, where our budgets were so strapped that you just kind of have to figure out ways of creating things, as well as my background is also in emergency medicine. I was an EMT for a few years. So trying to get some different ideas pulling from that, talking with some of my Baptist Health colleagues to get some ideas. And but a lot of it is just kind of almost like back in the day with Lincoln Logs and Legos, just stick it together and see what happens.
So flexibility has been the name of the game for any teacher, but especially for you, right?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
So talk about how are your students adapting? I mean, I know that you've had a lot of weight to bear, but they've had to, because what you teach and part of your pathway, your pathway that students are in, there's certifications that end up, are an end result of this. So how are they going through that? How are they earning those certifications, and how are they bearing the burden, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been difficult for them. I know that for sure. It's much more difficult for me to try to verbally cue and correct techniques through a Google Meet. but they've been very, very flexible. I've been very surprised the caliber of students, especially last trimester and this trimester. I've been very fortunate having kids that are very driven, not really having to spend a whole lot of time kind of tracking kids down, which was a great surprise. So a lot of what we've been doing as far as with skills-based is having them practice and scheduling one-on-one meet time. So we'll get the class started, and then I have kind of little breakout sessions with each student, especially if I notice a specific group that's struggling with a particular task. And then we've kind of really, able to narrow in and kind of make that a little bit better. As far as like CPR certifications, things like that, it's been pretty good for the most part. A lot of smaller classes, bringing a couple kids in here and there, going through the new American Heart Association guidelines has been a little bit of a struggle, but it is what it is. And we've been pretty successful. We got pretty much everybody in trimester 1 certified, and getting ready to start that with our new group here. So.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Talk about the successes. We've talked about some obstacles, but just talk about some successes that you've achieved, not only as a teacher, but certainly that your students have achieved as we've gone through NTI both last year and this year.
Yeah. So one thing I guess my greatest achievement so far from last year to this year especially has been my way of communicating. And then I feel like I've grown quite a bit learning the process of scaffolding, being a new teacher, trying to scaffold things. Whenever I'm having to break everything down to the most minute detail. So it's simply because I'm not there to show examples or kind of gauge how the students are understanding it right away. It's kind of taught me how to communicate and build those individual steps a little bit more in a concrete method rather than kind of throwing it all at them at once. So that's been a benefit to me, the communication aspect. My students have done surprisingly really well. Like I said, trimester 1, I think we had about 54 students get BLS certified. So that's the highest level of certification that these folks can get. That's the same certification we carry as athletic trainers as well. And a lot of that was on them to come in outside of school. So that was kind of a really, really nice refreshment to see these guys really want to make sure they extend that education, make sure they get everything they can out of this class by finding outside time to get it knocked out.
You talked about, and I think your class and a lot of the career pathway classes, both at EC3 and at the home high schools, they are hands-on, get down in the nitty-gritty class. Have you found that you're in a pathway, obviously medical science or that pathway? It seems like those people who enter that pathway, they are driven just by their own innate human nature. So you've probably seen a lot of that as we've moved forward through this, haven't you?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's been interesting. Even some of the folks that I thought maybe they were, maybe not fully invested into the program, it was just something kind of exploring. I think seeing the response from our community as far as the outreach towards our first responders, or even maybe their parents or loved ones that are having to work, work in these settings, has really kind of sparked them to want to do something a little bit more. And so it's been neat seeing some of these kids almost like that light bulb click, and they're understanding, being a healthcare professional, your front line's just like anybody else. Just oftentimes you hopefully don't have to deal with the pandemic. It's a lot different than that, but it's really kind of given some of these folks a purpose and kind of a vision and guided them to knowing that healthcare is what they want to do.
So the pandemic hasn't scared anybody away?
So far, I've had maybe one or two, but for the most part, they've all been very intrigued on how our class setting would relate if we were in the hospital or in a clinic.
Okay. Well, Chad, you are I think a lot of you, I know you along with the rest of our teachers have had to be flexible, kind of scrap the normal plans and just adapt. And you and your colleagues, not only at EC3, but all across the district, have done an amazing job. And just know we appreciate you and everything that you do for our kids.
Well, I sure appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, we're back with Lydia Rakes, who is a mathematics teacher at Bluegrass Middle School. And Ms. Rakes, thanks for hanging out with us on HCS Matters. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
But tell us about teaching in a pandemic, teaching middle school math in a pandemic. I'm sure when you walked across the stage and got your teaching certificate and your bachelor's degree, this was not probably what you had envisioned. So give us the Cliff Notes version of how you've done middle school math in a pandemic.
Okay. I am an OLA teacher, so I've been online the entire time. So what I did in August is actually completely different to what I'm doing now. So in August, I started out teaching one grade level, and I was doing pre-recorded lessons through Edpuzzle. And now, since I just have my Bluegrass students, I have 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math. I have live Google Meets now. I get to interact with the kids more frequently. I have figured out how to use Jamboard on my iPad. So I can actually write notes in front of them. I present through the Google Meet, so they get the direct instruction. And we have, we'll do some one-on-one Google Meets with kids that don't understand. But I mean, it's been a learning experience going. I mean, like I said, things that I did in August are completely different to what I do now. And I mean, I feel like we've improved a lot. I feel like my teaching practice has improved a lot from where we started. But I mean, I've had to learn a lot.
In August, you probably had students from all across the district in your virtual classroom, and now you just have Bluegrass Middle School students. How has that transition been for you?
I think it's definitely, it's more beneficial because the 7th and 8th graders that I had most of them in 6th grade because I've always taught 6th grade in person at Bluegrass. So the 7th and 8th graders that I have now, I've had in person in their 6th grade year. So most of them I've known or I've seen around. So I already have those pre-made connections. So that's really helped. And then the 6th graders that I have, I think having all of their teachers at Bluegrass has kind of made them a little bit more comfortable because, 6th graders going into middle school, it's always kind of nerve-wracking. But I think for them, I think it's been a smoother transition for the kids. But it's definitely helped me because it's easier to keep track of, what kid is where. I don't have to go and track down a kid from east or west. And I'm like, what kid goes where? I don't. So organizational is much better.
Sure.
Yeah.
Flexibility has been the name of your game, I'm sure, especially since August and probably even dating back to March of last year when we had to go to non-traditional instruction basically over a weekend. So I know we've talked about the new NTI this year and how NTI is so much improved, and you talked a little bit about that, Ms. Rakes, but go into a little bit more detail if you don't care about how this NTI in 2020, 2021 and OLA is totally different than it was last year when we kind of, put it together and limped to the finish line, so to speak.
Okay. So I know, like you said, in March, I mean, we had a weekend. We had a weekend to plan and get everything going. And it was hard. It was hard to adjust. And it was just kind of like, we didn't have any training online. We really had no idea what to do or what to expect. It was just, here's a Google Meet and do what you can. We did the very best that we could back in March. And as we went, we were learning, and, thank goodness for our technology people and our administrators and everybody in the district for giving us those resources that they could. But I can tell a difference now. Like, so with OLA, I mean, we had training over the summer because we knew we were going to offer the OLA option. So we had trainings over different programs and how rigorous it was going to be. And I feel like the delivery of content is much more superior to what NTI was back in March. And even my coworkers that are doing NTI, I feel like, I mean, they're always well, I don't want to say always, but in the beginning of NTI, they would come and they would ask questions like, well, how would you do this or how would you do that? So, I mean, they've had more training, but they're still always looking for ways to grow. And I think, that's the main thing. We're always looking for ways to grow.
Right. And even now it's not a perfect system, and who knows if it ever will be. But how have your students, Ms. Rakes, kind of adapted to this? Because you're in the Online Learning Academy. So these are students who probably 9 times out of 10 haven't set foot in the school building at all this year, even when we were offering face-to-face instruction. So how are they picking up? And math well, at least for me, it was not the easiest subject in the world. So how are they picking up concepts and growing in mathematics?
So, I mean, I've been pleasantly surprised. So, like I said, back in August, things were different because like class sizes were so enormous with OLA having students from all 5 middle schools. So we really couldn't do live instruction because we just had so many kids. So then like back in the first quarter, I would offer the one-on-one Google Meets, and that helped a lot. But so then when we made the transition back into our homeschool, the Bluegrass kids that I had the first quarter, I kept them because I'm at Bluegrass. So seeing them like going from recorded lessons to live lessons, I got to see them absorb better. I could interact with them. This morning, it's funny, in 8th grade, we're learning about the Pythagorean theorem, and that can be tough on its own. But online this morning, I mean, I had some kids, they were like, I don't understand this. They were like, I don't get this. But, as we worked along in the chat, so their peers were like, okay, all you got to do is add this and, square this and da-da-da-da. So they were interacting with each other, and they helped each other understand the concept as if they were in a real in-person classroom. So, I mean, that was great to see this morning. I was so happy about that.
Wonderful. So they are experiencing creating relationships and helping each other and things like that. Sounds like that's continuing.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I always tell them, like, I always encourage them, if you don't understand something right now, that's okay. Because, I know online learning is hard, and I know learning math is hard. When you can put the two together, it's really hard. So, I mean, the kids, they've been so supportive of each other, and they've really blown me away this year.
Wonderful. Talk about how, the Bluegrass Middle School, or Bluegrass Middle School has a long tradition of support and just taking care of students, and I know that's still the case there. I mean, the Bluegrass family, I'm sure, has adapted to this as a whole and really grown as a school together, haven't they?
Oh, definitely. And I like some of us, we embraced technology with open arms, and then some of us were very hesitant to embrace technology. But as we went through this together, we have OLA teachers, we have new OLA teachers. And so like there are some of us who have been doing OLA since the beginning, and we've helped those new OLA teachers, and we've helped the NTI teachers, and we're really here to support one another. We're in this together. We don't want one person to fail. We really, truly, we're always sharing ideas with each other, and it's really magical sometimes whenever we do share those resources, and we always like to share our successes. Awesome.
Well, Ms. Rakes, we appreciate you. We appreciate your entire team at Bluegrass and across the district. I mean, we have thrown, there's been a lot thrown on your plate, and you all have just accepted it and gone on as we put students first. So thank you for all you do, and we appreciate you greatly.
Yes, I'm very proud of my Bluegrass family, and I'm proud of all the teachers and everybody across the district.
Awesome. Well, Ms. Rakes, thank you. And that's our last teacher segment here on HCS Matters. So we'd like to thank DeMarcus Compton at Lincoln Trail, Chad Witzel at the Early College and Career Center, and Ms. Lydia Rakes from Bluegrass Middle School for hanging out with us and just talking about the new challenges of 2020, 2021. And hopefully by the 21-22 school year, all this is behind us and we can get back to somewhat normal. So thank you all for watching, and we appreciate everyone who's been with us today on HCS Matters.